Well, many have read my friend Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The Rich Dad, Poor Dad philosophy is very sound, and what Bob Kiyosaki says that there's 4 categories of people. He calls these the 4 quadrants. The first category, the great majority, are employees who work for a salary. Now, people who work for a salary have all their deductions taken off at source. They take the money home and they spend it on their lifestyle, and they very seldom ever get ahead. A friend of mine wrote a book once, and he said, "You never get rich working for someone else. You only get rich working for yourself." However, employee status is where we start. We all have to start somewhere. The second category of people, the next higher category, is self-employed people. These are people who earn their livings from commissions, income, bonuses, fees, and so on. They're what you might call free agents. Many people, for instance, who are contractors or who are computer programmers or who are repair people or even doctors, lawyers, architects, and engineers who work on their own are basically self-employed. In other words, they can only eat what they kill. They can only get money when they're actually working and getting results that they're being paid for. The next level up are entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are people who have other people working for them. When you start off with your job and you start your own business, you're an entrepreneur in a way, but you only really become a serious entrepreneur when you begin to hire people who can do certain things for you to free up your time to do things that are more valuable. Now, here's the key to entrepreneurship. The whole purpose of hiring other people is so that you can do more of those things that pay you the very most. And you don't hire other people to do things that you should be doing. All right? If your biggest skill is your ability to sell, you don't hire salespeople and then sit in the office behind the desk shuffling papers. So, entrepreneurs leverage themselves, multiply their ability by hiring others to do specialized functions that they're either not good at or which is not a good use of your time. And finally, investors. This is the highest level of all. These are people who put up their own money and can borrow the money of others, and they create wealth or sources of wealth that generate income for them when they're not working. Even an entrepreneur has to be working all the time, but an investor is a person who owns a piece of a business or maybe even owns the whole business, and it continues to generate revenue. When you buy stocks, by the way, you are investing in another company that other people are running. And if they run the company well, you will make money from stocks and mutual fund investments. This is a form of investing. Your ultimate goal in life is to become an investor. However, you have to go through being an employee, being self-employed, and being an entrepreneur in order to generate the revenue necessary so that you can be an investor. Now, here's the best definition of wealth I've ever read, and it is, wealth is income from other sources. You're not wealthy if you make a good living. You're only wealthy if you make a good living when you're not working. If you have to work every day for your living, you may be well paid, and there's a lot of well-paid people who have so many debts and so much debt service and so many payments that they're only 2 months away from homelessness. So wealth means that you have money that is working for you, whether you work or not. Your goal is to move from employee to self-employed to entrepreneur to investor in stages with a plan and with measures or benchmarks on how to get there. So here's some of the basic rules for becoming a millionaire. Remember, if you break the basic rules, it's very, very hard for you to succeed in any field. So number 1, spend less than you earn. This is the foundation of The Richest Man in Babylon, perhaps the most successful best-selling book on financial independence. Spend less than you earn and save and invest the balance. In other words, live on less than you're bringing in. Now, here's an interesting point, and I learned this from one of the smartest money managers I ever met. He said, when we're young, we associate money with pleasure. We get our first allowance and we go and we spend it on candy. And we think that when we have money, we go and we spend it on candy or things that make us feel good. Now, when we become adults, whenever we think of getting a lot of money, our first thought is spending it on something that makes us happy. If you go to a tourist resort where people are on vacation and having a good time, they're just lined with street after street after street of knickknacks and gadgets and junk, because people, when they're happy, associate going out and buying stuff. However, what this does is it keeps you broke all your life. So what you do, and this is what he told me, is you rewire yourself. You kind of pull out one wire and replug it in, and you say, instead of saying, I like spending money, you say, I like saving money. and you begin to think of how much you enjoy having money in the bank, how much you enjoy saving, how much you enjoy delayed gratification, how much you enjoy the idea of moving toward financial independence. And when you develop the habit of being happy about saving money, you start to find yourself more and more careful with your expenditures. If you're going to invest, the rule is investigate before you invest. My friend Ken Fisher of Fisher Investment says that 2/3 of all investing is avoiding making mistakes by making the wrong decisions or by making decisions too quickly. So if you're going to invest in anything, the rule is spend as much time investigating the investment as you spent making the money. You'll find that quick investment decisions are invariably poor investment decisions. Only invest in things that you know and understand. Don't invest in somebody else's idea or scheme or business. Only invest in things that you know. Number one rule is don't lose money. Whatever you do, don't lose money. If there's a possibility of losing a little bit of money and you do it, you're probably going to lose a lot. So be very careful. Once you earn the money, hold on to it.
Here is a dangerous thought, and I've learned this over the years. Every so often, if you get financially ahead, you might find yourself saying, well, we can afford to risk a little. Have you ever heard yourself saying that? Well, we can afford to risk a little. Stop. That attitude assures that not only will you risk and lose a little, but you will risk and lose a lot. All successful people never concede or admit that I can afford to risk a little, which means I can afford to lose a little. They say, well, the purpose of entrepreneurship is to take risks. Do you know something? That's totally false. The purpose of entrepreneurship is to make profits. Nobody embarks on entrepreneurship to take risks and lose money. We embark on entrepreneurship to make profits, right? Right? What we do is we mitigate risks. The successful entrepreneur is the person who sails through the shoals of risks in order to get to the profit. The unsuccessful entrepreneur is the one who crashes against the rocks of risk. Your job is not to take risks. Your job is to make profits. And you make profits by minimizing risks. I learned from this multimillionaire businessman. He told me, he said, Brian, never rush into an investment. He said, investments are like buses on a busy street. There will always be another one along.
The primary reason why you save your money and accumulate it carefully is because it gives you two things. First of all, it gives you freedom. You know you've got money in the bank. If you don't like your job, you can walk away from it because you've got money in the bank. But the second thing it gives you is opportunity. If an opportunity comes along, you're prepared to take advantage of it. You don't have to say, I'm sorry, I don't have any money, I can't afford it, I'm broke, and people just shake their head in pity and walk away. As an adult, you should always have opportunity money put aside. And when you have it, you feel great about yourself.
Remember, if you love something, you set up a force field of energy around it. This force field of energy attracts more of the same thing. Like attracts like. Similarities attract similarities. So if you don't have any money, there's an old saying, it takes money to make money. Well, if you don't have any money, what do? You have nothing there. There's no source of energy. So you've got to get something there. It doesn't matter what it is, you've got to get something there. If it's penny, you've got to get something there. In the Bible it says, to those that have shall even more be given, but from those who have not, even that which they have shall be taken away. If you have money, and you preserve it, and you take good care of it, to those who have shall even more be given, because they will attract more. To those who have not, even that which they have will be taken away, because they'll have nothing to attract. So here's what you do, is you make a decision. We all want to be financially independent. Is that correct? Yes. And we're patient. We don't expect to do it overnight because we don't expect something for nothing or a quick fix, right? Okay. So what we do is we say, I can't save 10% of my income, but by gum, I can save 1%. You can save 1%. This will constitute a major shift in the way you think about life. But the rule is this. Make a decision today that whatever you earn on a gross basis, you will save 1% and live on 99%.
So here's the second basic rule.
Look upon money as something that has personality of its own. This is important because money goes and stays where it is appreciated. And it flees from places where it is not appreciated. Money goes to where it is loved, to where it is cherished, to where it is respected. It's an interesting point, but you can tell your attitude toward money several ways. But the simplest of all ways is by looking how you treat the money you have. If your money is all in a scramble in your purse or your wallet, it looks like somebody threw up there, and it's all mixed up, and all of the coins and all of the bills are all mixed in a mishmash, it means you're probably not doing very well in life. If your checkbook is misbalanced or mixed up or mismatched, or you've got 2 or 3 different accounts here and there and you have no idea what's in them, if your financial life is in confusion, it means that you don't respect money. And if you don't respect money, money will come by and not stay long. So therefore, you'll find that people who are very respectful toward their money, they carefully work out their checkbooks and their bank accounts. Their money is all very carefully, neatly folded in their purse, wallet, or pocket. Their coins are stacked properly or put in jars, or even better, put into a coin sorting thing and put into the bank. People whose financial affairs are neat and in order are always people who have more money and attract more money than those who don't. And the starting point, by the way, and a lot of people are looking away from me when I say this, if you take a little notebook, like those little spiral-bound notebooks, and you just simply write down everything that you spend over the course of a week, it'll change your whole philosophy toward money. And then as you pay attention to this, begin to analyze it and look at it, you'll notice extraordinary patterns and you won't be happy. And you'll start to see how these patterns can be shifted and changed. And as you shift them and change them, how your whole financial life starts to fall into order. Just by the very act of observing your expenditure patterns.
So the rule is count your pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves.
Number 3.
Once upon a time, when I started my career, I sat down at the end of the year and my tax returns were $14,400. 12 years later, I sat down and did my tax returns, and my tax returns were $1,440,000. I'd increased my income by 100 times, and I went back and I started to look at that, and I realized that I'd used a formula which I gradually articulated into what I call the 1,000% formula. And it's very simple. It's based on the law of incremental improvement. So here's what it consists of. It's very simply this. Each morning, get up first thing, at least 2 hours before you have to be somewhere. So you can invest the first hour, what we call the golden hour, into yourself. And you invest the golden hour by reading something that is uplifting, educational, motivational, spiritual. It doesn't matter, but they say reading is to the mind as exercise is to the body. Here's an interesting point. If you were to get up and read for 60 minutes each day, you would read an average of 1 book per week. 1 book per week would be an average of 50 books a year. Now, to get a PhD at a leading university in any subject, including astrophysics, you have to read about 30 to 50 books and combine them into a dissertation. If you read 30 to 50 books in your field in the course of a year, you get the equivalent of a doctoral degree, whether it's in selling, business, entrepreneurship, or any other field. You will, because you're reading material that's practical, have the equivalent of a dissertation in that you will have blended it into your life. You can double and triple your income simply by reading 1 hour every day. Step number 2 in the formula is make a list of everything you have to do that day. Sit down, make a list of everything that you have to do, plan your day in advance. Step number 3 is organize your list by priorities. Determine what's most important, what's second most important, what's third most important. Put a number next to each one. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Fourth step is to start on your most important task, as we mentioned before, and work on it single-mindedly with concentration, focus, and discipline until your most important task is done, and then go to task number 2 and do the same thing. Number 5 is listen to audio programs in your car. Turn your car into a mobile classroom. Turn your car into a university on wheels. Now, what is the next step? Number 6. Number 6 is to ask yourself 2 questions after every event. These 2 are what I call the magic questions, and they will change your life. Question number 1 is right afterwards, say, what did I do right in that situation? If it's a sales call, if it's a business meeting, if it's a job application or interview, if it's a negotiation, if it's a meeting with your bank, afterwards ask yourself, what did I do right? and immediately think, and even better, write down everything that you did correctly in that meeting. Because you did a lot of good things. Even if it wasn't successful, you did a lot of things that were right. Second question you ask is, what would I do differently next time? And then quickly write down a list of all the things that you could do to improve that situation the next time you have it. Now, the seventh part of the 1000% formula is for you to treat everyone you meet like a $1 million customer. Treat everybody you work with in life as though they're the most important person in the world. Treat your customers as though they're about to buy $1 million worth of your product if they like you, and if you treat them nicely. And especially treat the members of your family. Treat your children, treat your spouse, treat your friends like they're really important people. This 1000% formula has been the key to success throughout history, because you don't make quantum leaps. You don't go from zero to being rich. You don't make easy money or quick money. What you do is you go to work on yourself bit by bit, day by day, week by week, month by month, and your results are virtually guaranteed.
Well, what are the qualities, the most important qualities of self-made millionaires? Number one, top of the list, is honesty. Someone once said that if honesty did not exist, it would have to be invented as the surest way of getting rich. Why is honesty so important? It's because as soon as you go beyond your own resources, you have to borrow money. And you can only borrow money if people trust you, if people know that you're honest and that you've always been honest. So therefore, you dramatically leverage yourself by developing the kind of reputation that people can trust, that people know that if you say you'll do something, you'll do it. If you say you'll pay something back, you'll pay it back. If you have a problem, you let them know, and so on. Now, the second quality of self-made millionaires is self-discipline. Napoleon Hill used to call it the master key to riches. In his interviews of more than 500 of the wealthiest men that America ever produced, he found that self-discipline was the one common quality they all had. It was the one quality that guaranteed their success. And self-discipline is learnable by practicing discipline whenever it is required. The third quality of self-made millionaires is getting along well with people. It's likability. If people like you, they'll want to do business with you. If people like you, they'll want to lend you money. If people like you, they'll want to work for you and work hard. So you find that people with positive mental attitudes, optimists, cheerful, nice people, tend to be far more successful in every area financially than people who aren't. A fourth quality is having a supportive spouse. Now that's interesting. The answer is that when you have a supportive spouse, somebody who stands behind you, works with you, it saves you an enormous amount of energy in life. You don't have to come home at night and fight. You don't have to worry about what he or she is going to say. You don't have to argue. You don't have to go out looking for someone to date and so on. You can take all that energy and channel it into becoming successful. Being single or in a bad relationship is a very time and energy consuming time of your life. By the way, you have all of these qualities already developed to a certain degree. Your job is just to develop them to a higher degree by practicing them whenever you need to. Now, there are several reasons why people don't become rich, and I've broken down the basic 7. And this, again, is the result of exhaustive research. The number one reason that people don't become rich is that it never occurs to them that they can become rich. Now, let me tell you something. You can do it. You can become a millionaire. If you're a millionaire, you can become a 10 millionaire. You can do it. In fact, you should say over and over again, as you think about personal wealth, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Because when you start realizing that you can do it, then the only question you ask is how? What are the different ways? What do I do? When you cross that mental barrier and you realize that yes, if hundreds of thousands and millions of other people have done it, I can do it as well. You can do it as well. So the number one reason that it never occurs to them. From now on, it's occurred to you. Number 2, they never decide to. They wish and they hope and they pray. But here's the rule. Nothing happens in life until you make a decision and burn your bridges and take action. So just decide, I am going to do it, and then take down a piece of paper and write out every single thing that you could think of to do that would help you to become financially independent. Now, the third reason people don't become rich is they procrastinate. Most financial advisors will tell you this is the number one reason. They always have an excuse in their 20s and their 30s, their 40s, always have an excuse, always have a bill to pay, always have a reason why they can't start putting away their money today. But They can afford ski vacations and new cars and going out drinking and dating with their friends and clothes and everything else. Do you know that the average person at the age of 40 in America, the average adult, is worth only a couple of $1,000s? The average adult at the age of 50 is only worth about $50,000? Is that most people don't really get serious about their finances until their 50s and 60s? Don't let this happen to you. Don't procrastinate. Make a decision and do it now. Start saving today. Open a bank account and put in 1% in advance of what you're going to make this month. And then from then on, add to that account. Fourth reason that people fail financially is that they fear failure. And fear of failure, as you know, is the greatest killer of all. It paralyzes you. It stops you from taking a chance, from investing your money, from taking a new job, from doing anything where there's a risk. Human beings are terrible about loss. We're so emotional about the possibility of losing money that sometimes we become so paralyzed we never do anything that will enable us to make money. Which is why it's so important that you start off slowly and you become more and more involved as you develop confidence. But whenever you say, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, you actually reduce the fear of failure and you build up your confidence and courage. Now, number 5, they fear rejection. They fear rejection. They fear criticism. They don't want to start a new business because what if they don't succeed and everybody criticizes them? Or they don't want to start a second income business or get into a multi-level marketing business or network marketing. What if people make fun of them? Remember this, that what people think of you has no impact on you at all. It's only what you think of yourself and how you think about others. What they think about you means nothing. If everybody in the world thought that you were a complete idiot because you took a chance on a business opportunity, it doesn't affect you unless you allow it to affect you. So from now on, what you do is you please yourself. Okay, then the 6th reason that people don't become financially independent is lack of long-time perspective. All successful people have a long-time perspective. They think many years into the future, and they're willing to make sacrifices in the short term to enjoy far greater rewards in the long term. The 7th reason that people retire poor, and this is something that's so silly but so relevant, is that they lack essential knowledge. Now, it's the most amazing thing is they just don't know what to do. They don't read books on how to run a business. They don't study on how to become successful at selling. They don't study on how to negotiate or how to invest, because they just act impulsively. They believe that, they went to school at one time and now their education is over. But you find that self-made millionaires are continuously learning, They never stop learning about their field. And sometimes the most important learning that you do is before you get started. I met 2 brothers who spent 18 months of intensive research, traveling all over the country, talking to people, reading books, taking notes, before they finally settled on a business to get into. And within 2 years, they were both millionaires. They were willing to do their homework. So do your homework. If you see somebody else succeeding or you see a field that lots of people are succeeding in, say, that's an interesting field. I'm going to study that field. Here's a mistake people make. They say, well, what if I do all the study in this field and it turns out that it's not a good field to go into? I've lost all my time. No, you nitwit. No good effort is ever lost. No effort of study that helps you become better is ever lost. It all accumulates and comes back to help you later on.